Good afternoon. Welcome to A is for Authors. Today we have with us Mr. Scott Henderson, and he is the author of three books that you see displayed here. The first one, Shoestrings and the Pumpkin Patch. The next one is Grandpa Goes Camping, and the third is Grandpa Goes Hunting. And we just want to welcome him and let him tell us about his writings.
All right. Well, I started writing probably about 5 years ago. We were pastoring a church up in Alabama, and there was times where we had some spare time, and it started out with this book right here, Grandpa Goes Hunting, and I wanted to do something. I always loved to draw, and I always liked stories, and I always felt kind of connected with the Wizard of Oz, and that was always, any story that taught me a lesson I always connected with pretty easy. So I ended up befriending an author. His name is Michael A, and he writes more like pirate books and stuff like that, novels, and kind of got in contact with him, and he told me about Kindle Direct Publishing, and told me that if I wanted to do that, it was a quick, simple route, to kind of get my books out there. And so I did this in a faster form, so to say, and kind of threw it out there and found out the process, and then I went back and redid it, and this is more the updated version of it, and kind of updated the story and everything, and then when that one kind of got done, I realized I wanted to do a series of them, and I wanted to end it with Grandpa Goes to Church, which is the current book that I'm working on. And in that time period, I made this one and Shoestrings and the Pumpkin Patch, which has a funny story to it. Me and my wife was laying in bed one night, and I was just goofing around with her, and I kept telling her, I said, your watermelon vine's wrapped around my shoestrings, just goofing off. I don't even know where it come from. And it kind of started off there, and I kept thinking about that, and there's actually a picture in there where you see some, it was during the fall, so I had to change it to a pumpkin,
Mm-hmm.
and, but there's a picture in there where I show the shoestrings wrapped around the pumpkin vine. And I kept seeing that before I even drew the book, but I knew that I wanted that picture in there, and it symbolized a lot for us at that time. Was pastoring the church, and had a lot of questions going on, and it just kind of felt like that's where we was at, and so it really meant a lot, and then that actually turned out probably to be my favorite book. But I'm hoping by the time we get Grandpa Goes to Church done, that this will be my favorite series, and this will be my favorite book, considering that will be our only series. And so if that turns out, hopefully it'll turn out soon. But in the meantime, when I was doing all this, I was getting more and more practice at illustrating on the computer, digital art, and hopefully the next book that comes out will be completely digital art. So I'm really excited about what that's going to do for the next book.
So I should have introduced you as the author and the illustrator
Yes, ma'am.
of those books. Okay. So where did you get your art training?
Actually, I took some art classes in from elementary all the way up through high school, and I actually had an art institute scholarship offered to me, and I ended up going to work for the sheriff's office instead. But I did take some painting classes when I was younger, and it was a lot of the Bob Ross training they had done in the town I was living at, so that was probably the extent of it. And then I had a lot of inspirations growing up, and then just watching YouTube videos and different things like that, more just habit and practice.
Okay, so you said that you were inspired by some other authors
Yeah, definitely. There's a guy out there by the name of Mark Crilly, who's huge on YouTube, and he does more comic books, or more there's a word out there for it, but I can't think of the word. But anyway, so he does a lot of drawings, and graphic novels is what they're called. And so he does a lot of that, and it kind of inspired me to kind of put, I think every young artist, especially, and writer, you want to know what your style is, and frankly, it's really just when you write, or when you draw, what comes out on paper. That's you. That's it's your ability. That's your talent. That's that's who you're inspired by. And so you'll see a lot of that in these books. But I had a cousin as well who inspired me a lot. He was always drawn. He's a great artist, and so growing up, I inspired to be much like him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Some beautiful illustrations.
thank you.
How many books have you sold so far?
Not much, just probably 200 or 300.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of we don't do no advertising or nothing like that. We put it on Facebook and mainly sell to friends and family and things like that. It turned out well at first it was just more of a personal project and to see what I could do and how much fun you can have, because if you're not having fun, what's the point of getting in there and just because it takes a lot of work. It's just for something simple like this. You can easily spend 2 months on it, so it takes time. It takes time to do a book.
Well, your stories all teach a lesson. Why is that?
Well, I enjoy a book that teaches a lesson. I think that entertainment's good and fine, but if you can mix entertainment with a lesson, that's the best way to teach. And our culture, not just our culture, but every culture around the world, started with stories. You look at the Bible, if you look at the Odysseys, by Homer, it's just stories that's just been passed down and passed down. And I grew up with stories like that. My dad had numerous amounts of stories. And I remember growing up, there was always like 2 families living in the same house. And so he would come in the middle, or, not in the middle of the night, but right before we'd go to sleep, and he'd come in and he'd always wear a baseball cap and he'd turn it around backwards, and it'd sit it'd turn the chair around backwards, and he'd sit and just kind of, look at us, and he'd be like, okay, and then he'd go into telling the story, and I just remember staying there being captivated by what he was saying in the story, because he knew how to draw it out, and I always thought that he should be a storyteller, go to like shows and stuff and do it like that, because he's phenomenal at it. And that's really where I fell in love with telling a good story, and but more importantly, putting a lesson in it, because I wanted at the end of that story, that the parent can enjoy it just as much as the child enjoys it, and especially Shoestrings and the Pumpkin Patch. In these 2 stories, it's simple things, not leaving food out for a panther, or or being, not walking through the woods alone in case there's a bear or something, But in this one, it's more direct, and it talks about listening to your parents and knowing why that's important. And then there's people who show up, which I found in life, people show up to give you lessons and to help you along the journey, and that's what happens to Justin in that book. It's awesome to be able to to take something that's just an idea in your head or a lesson that you've learned and putting it on paper, and for other people to learn that lesson as well.
And so this one is a book, all of them are books that will be read over and over again, and so the kid really doesn't know he's learning a lesson,
right.
But yet you're talking to him about some of the things that he should be aware of.
Definitely.
And I think that's very good.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
But back to you selling 200 or 300 books, that's a lot of books, because that's a lot. So how do you get your books?
We now it's through it's through Amazon. You can go through Amazon. Now I use KDP, which at the time was CreateSpace when I first started, but now it's KDP. It's Kindle Direct Publishing, but it's just a sister group, I guess, of Amazon. So you can go right off Amazon and just look up the name and the title, and you'll see the pictures pop up there. But me, if I know there's a group of people that want some books or something, I can go and order those and just have them shipped to the house, and they print them out. And what's really neat is just for if there's any author or want-to-be authors out there, or people who just like the information, books like this, they like made in pages of 8. So because when they print out these books, the sheets come in sheets of 8. So they like it to where they can use just one whole sheet instead of they want to cut back on their waste. So they if you can do it in 8s. So typically I think this one has 40 pages and the other 2 have 32 pages. But that helps them out, and so and it makes it easier for you when you're planning out your book, and you're doing out your outline.
Mm-hmm.
You want so many words or so many pictures on a certain page,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go ahead and lay that out. So it helps them out and it helps us out as authors and illustrators.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we get them from Amazon.
Mm-hmm. So, well, we are enjoying your books, and we hope that others will enjoy it. And so we invite them to come to the library, check it out, or go to Amazon and check it out that way.
Definitely.
And so we are glad to have you in Fort Meade. And I think that when our times are different, then maybe people will be wanting to, have a real life presentation. But,
Yeah, it's different.
But we appreciate you being
Thank
with
you
us
for
today and
inviting me.
telling us all your secrets and
Yep.
telling us what has inspired you
Yes.
to be an author. And we hope that parents know that there are some good lessons in these books and that they'll come in and check them out.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.